Hi guys, this is Sabyuddin and we are just working on error correction and detection for programming, pseudocodes and algorithms. So here are some rules that you have to follow for all the errors to be traced. So first of all, the point number one is minimum variable must be initialized with the highest value of the ongoing input. Ongoing input means the value which is being taken input, or the maximum value of the input range that can be the maximum value, minimum value. Example, if 3 digit input, then 999 3 digit length input is entered. That means it could be 100 or it could be 999, but the range will vary. If the values are input from 0 to 100, then the maximum minimum value will be 100. Or similarly, if it is going from 0 to 1000, then the minimum value would be 100. Or if in 4 digits input, then 999, that means it could be from 999 to 10,000. Or you can just set minimum equals to 999 and so on. Then point number two, maximum can be initialized with either 0 or max or any value. Let's suppose if you are setting the temperature as max temperature, so max temp or max something like that, so this could be that way. Then if you use for loop, point number three, if you use for loop, that should be terminated with next keyword, because next is the complement for this. If you remove next keyword or forgot to write, so that means there would be a instruction error. Then point number four, sub counters can be used for separate different counting within the loop when the event occurs. That means if you want to, let's suppose, calculate the attendance of a person, so and you want to calculate the particular person as a individual person, so that means an individual person will have to be marked, and before marking that counter you have to just catch that particular item in your input field, so that can be catched. And after that you have to write the counter that is known as sub counter, that will count the particular selection and so on. Now example, if the counter is doing repetition and you want to check the input that how many positive and negative numbers out of 100, then you will have to use sub counters separately for each condition. That means the numbers are coming in and you are to count odd numbers or even numbers, and you have to calculate the odd total and you have to calculate the even total. So you will be separating the numbers by catching through the input, and those numbers will be written within the loop. Now point number five, initial and final limits in a loop condition must be true. Values must be found while testing. That means you have to test those values initially and they become the final ones. Then point number six, if you apply if condition, that must be true. That means the condition must be matched. If it is not matching, then it will not bring the result you are looking for. Then point number seven, if condition must be terminated with end if you don't write end if, then the construct is incomplete and the error will be reported. Point number eight, to calculate average, it must be outside the loop. That means all the calculation is done within the loop, and all the running totals will be done within the loop, whether you are using for loop, while loop and repeat until. And then point number nine is totaling is performed within the loop and total must be set to 0. If you're using for loop, then for loop count variable automatically increments by 1 each time loop reaches the next keyword. So check whether count is again incremented inside for loop body or not. Or if you place any sub counter within the for loop which is already set to some definite value, that means it will run for 100 times. So if there are some sub counters or some values to be caught, so they would be counted, and then their sub counter would be counted separately. Then point number 11 is about repeat until and condition. That this is a post loop there where the condition is tested in the last, and if there is any error, but the loop will run only once. If the condition is correct or meets the requirement, then it will go for the next round, otherwise it will stop after running one time. It must use counter initialization either with 0 or 1, as count equals to 1 or count equals to 0. You can use any variable. It is not restricted to use only count. You can use the counter, you can use a, you can use b, and so on. It depends on the meaningful names. So now point number 12, remember that using repeat until test the condition in the last after the statements are run. Hence, if the statement is either correct or incorrect, it will run at least once as the condition test in the last. Point number 13, totaling will come before count equals to count plus 1. This is the count equals to count plus 1, which is the corresponding value of repeat until. If you have set the repeat until to run for 100 times or 10 times, so the count equals to count plus 1 will proceed the increments for 10 values, and then when it will come to an end, the loop will discontinue, and the average will come after the count equals to count plus ones. It's obvious that when all the running totals are added, then the average will be calculated, or if you put the average statement inside the loop, then the average result would be different, or maybe sometime maybe wrong. And output statements as with the output statements. And point number 14, subcounters can also be used as for next uses for different counting purposes separately. Now we are focusing while loop, and this in this while loop, this is known as precondition. That means the conditions are tested first. If the condition does not match, the loop will not continue. Using while loop, remember that the condition is tested first. After that, control passes to the statements within the loop before end while. Point number 17, subcounters can also be used separately. Totaling, similarly for loop and repeat loop, as you are explained already, that subcounters, how our subcounters are used and how are they placed. And point number 18, totaling comes before the counter. Similarly, the same procedure like the running totals, for calculating running totals. So they would be kept within the loop, and average comes after the counter. And similarly, the count equals to count plus 1 or count plus equals to 1. But the recommendation is for this loops understanding, you should go for count equals to count plus 1. And in higher level languages, count plus equals to 1 can also be incorporated. Point number 19, all these three loops can perform addition, subtraction, division and multiplication repeatedly according to the condition described in loops. So I hope that all these three loops will make you understand that how to trace the errors, and if you know the construct clearly and correctly, then you will trace the error that the construct is incomplete, then you will also trace the error. So these errors will be removed in one go. So if you don't know the rules, then definitely if there is no error, and if there is only single error, you will not know, because you don't know the rules, that what is the construct, what is the real construct of while loop, repeat loop and for loop, and what are the if structures. And case of additionally I'm adding these two things, if condition and the case of. So if you know the structures of all these control structures, then there is no problem in finding errors or to remove those errors, so you can find them easily. So I hope you will like this. Thanks for watching.